The NUSA lied to V. He was never in a coma and didn't lose his combat implants through surgery. And no, I'm not just saying that because I need to huff copium after the new ending rolled credits. I say it because I believe there's a compelling story to be told otherwise. Utilizing the information found in the Cyberpunk sourcebooks, Phantom Liberty expansion, and more. The further we delve into the research of Project Cynosure, the Black Wall, the Neural Matrix, and the shady dealings of NUSA, it becomes clear to see that we can't trust what we are told at face value. So today, I'm going to pick apart Phantom Liberty's plot threads and present some new ideas you may have not thought of previously. If anything, you will leave this video with new perspectives and ideas about Cyberpunk 2077 to expand your own beliefs. The tower ending might not be as linear as you've been led to believe. But before we begin, I have a word from this video's sponsor. If you've reached the point this winter where you like to stay in bed a bit longer but still want to have fun, this mobile game is not only available in bed, but now seamlessly on your PC as well. There's well over 800 unique and customizable champions ranging from the likes of elves, dwarves, demons, and more. All of this while having competitively detailed character models, environments, and consistent 60 frames per second. You'll have access to campaigns, dungeons, arenas, and more to tackle alongside the millions of others now playing. A personal favorite of mine being all the little details of characters and stories throughout the game. There's now more content than ever, with the Cursed City update that gives you 100 new stages with up to 2 bosses to fight at once. But that's not it either. Sir Nicholas is now traveling through Raid Shadow Legends with a festive Christmas story, with unique mini-games to solve, ongoing giveaways of in-game and real-life prizes like Amazon gift cards. You're not going to want to miss this limited time event. All you need to do to join is head to raidxmas.com. Download Raid now by using the link in the description or the QR code up on screen. Doing so will get you access to 2 epic champions, giving you a kickstart on the action. First is Lightsworn, a champion from the Sacred Order, and the second is Juliana, the boss killer unlocked at level 15. If you want to play right beside me, come find me under the name Laidback Gamer, and my personal clan, the Black Wall. So just hit that link when you're ready, and I'll see you there. Now, we can begin. To understand this theory, it only makes sense to begin with the technology that got us into this whole mess. Well, okay, not the relic, but the Neural Matrix. This tech was the sole objective of Songbirds, as it was ultimately meant to save her. She faced a similar situation to V, a dwindling lifespan that didn't have many options left, all a consequence of her being coerced to breach and utilize the Black Wall or the NUSA. The so-called firewall, which is actually its very own AI, meant to divide the infested old net from the new. This meant that every time she tampered with the Black Wall, she was not only facing damage inflicted by the wall, but the extremely dangerous rogue AI that continued to probe it. It had been established back in the 2020s just how much of a danger these rogue AI were, hence the IG protocol net being completely blocked off from public access and later having the Black Wall erected. When the Rabbids virus had been released by Rache Bartmoss, it had only meant to collapse the corporate data fortresses, thereby leaking all their data and crippling them all economically. It was meant to be a revolution, but it had backfired. With no Bartmoss to keep the Rabbids in line, they evolved far beyond their original parameters, beginning to corrupt anything and everything they could, including dangerous military-grade AI. All of this explanation is to help you understand the wasteland of the old net and just how dangerous these rogue AI are. Without any oversight, they've all evolved to almost beyond human comprehension. Yes, I said almost. You see, corporations weren't about to not only let all their corrupted data just be lost forever, but also allow these extremely dangerous AI go to waste. No, no, no. It's not enough to lock them behind a wall and let it be. These corporations want control of the AI. So, it began a Black Wall arms race. Arasaka's mission would be the one unveiled in Lucy's backstory during Edgerunners, while one of Militech's would take form as Project Cynosure. Project Cynosure would aim to capture rogue AI and use them as their very own weapons. This is how weapon blueprints such as the Erebus, SMG, and Canto Cyberdeck came to be. But most importantly, the Neural Matrix. It housed a rogue AI advanced enough to presumably cure Songbird or even V. Using this Neural Matrix comes down to two of the ending choices in Phantom Liberty. First of which is to side with Songbird and send her to the moon. With the help of Mr. Blue Eyes, she is sent to the moon where we later learn her treatment is a success, though the specifications we are unaware of. The second ending is to choose to ultimately side with Reed and hand Songbird over. This will bring her into NUSA custody and open up the tower ending for V. This surgery using the Neural Matrix doesn't entirely sway in V's benefit, as he wakes up 2 years later to a new world, one where relationships, friendships, and time have moved on. Not only does V have to face all this new change to the external world, but the internal as well. Upon awakening, Reed claims that V's neurons can no longer handle combat implants, essentially putting him back to square one of his new life. And what if this coma wasn't accidental? Rather, it was induced by the NUSA, for alternative reasons. A dialogue by Reed first brought me to this idea.
How'd you know? When I'd wake?
Doctor's estimates. You were supposed to be conscious by today. Tomorrow latest. They started bringing you up a few days ago. Controlled process.
After 2 years, the doctors had supposedly begun a wake-up process for V. My first thought was that he was actually in a coma, induced by the NUSA to assure silence from V for as long as it mattered. V obviously knew a lot, but it wouldn't be completely necessary to kill him in this situation. What he knew somewhat had an expiration date that would no longer matter as long as he was kept under watch and control long enough. But I started thinking past this. What if he was never in a coma? What if the NUSA themselves disabled his combat implants? Well, for you to have a clear picture of why I would come to these conclusions, we need to look at two people that exemplify just how and why the NUSA would do something like this. There's even a third later down the line that I will cover, alongside some interesting Cynosure case logs. First of which is the obvious example from Phantom Liberty, Songbird. During her time with the NUSA, she was turned into one of their most valuable assets. She was turned into a walking net-running station capable of probing the Black Wall and utilizing its power, which is what had led to her chromed-out body. Her access to the Black Wall was invaluable. It gave the NUSA an edge on the competition that was still trying to secretly use it. While we know that the fate of Songbird after being handed to the NUSA isn't pretty, it is heavily implied that she is no longer the person she once was, and is cut off from the rest of the world. So much so that even Reed can't get any information on her. In all likelihood, Myers opted to make her into more of a puppet, rather than cure her. The fate bestowed upon Songbird is to lose all her freedom and humanity, and turn purely into a connection to the Black Wall, to be abused over and over for this purpose.
I can't. Somi. You know I need that Neural Matrix.
He is it once I'm gone. It'll work. Just please.
I'm sorry, Sumi. But the FIA... they'll help if and only if I bring you in alive. That's the deal.
No, please. You're leaving me to a fate worse than death.
Somi!
Would it not make sense that when willing to do this to her, they would also do it to V, turning them into a weapon with the only purpose of following the NUSA's every command, a sort of Winter Soldier scenario where V becomes a mindless mercenary. Then once they've done what they needed, discard of them. Well, going this route rather than just trusting V outright makes a lot of sense when you look at the story of Morgan Blackhand, the #1 solo of his time, contracted by Militech for the majority of his career. They all came to a close when the nuke went off under him and Atom Smasher's feet during the 2023 Arasaka raid, leaving them to fall into the rubble and blast zone beneath them. Get this though, somehow Blackhand had managed to survive this incident. While his story remains largely unknown, besides a few teases by the creator Mike Pondsmith, he took this time to leave Militech behind, likely recognizing the risk of trusting any corp was no longer worth it, despite the luxurious lifestyle he got to live. Militech losing its top solo and leader from the Fourth Corporate War would turn out to be a pretty heavy hit, leaving a void that really just couldn't be filled by anyone else. To make things worse, Atom Smasher went back to Arasaka and was left with no rivals to his strength. So if this is really true, just what information shows that the NUSA has the tech to do something like this? Well, they might have the tech to do this otherwise, but what I will be looking over is in relation to Project Cynosure and the consequences of probing the Black Wall. A detailed file can be found in the Cynosure facility from a Militech netrunner named Lisa Smith. It reads, "Something happened to me yesterday. After a deep dive into cyberspace, they whisk us away for the usual testing. At one point, we got to those weird neurological tests that I always thought were kind of funny, where they ask you questions that make no sense, but apparently reveal something about yourself. You're probably familiar with some of them. What does the sound of one hand clapping? What does a mouse running through a maze represent to you? What do you associate with the smell of freshly roasted coffee?" And it was at this moment that I hesitated, because, well, I suddenly realized that I didn't know what coffee tasted like. I know what coffee is, but that's it. Strange, right? That feeling passed when I made myself a cup of strong coffee, but I have to admit I was a little weirded out. What else could I have potentially forgotten? Is it some kind of side effect of my last few dives? I doubt it, since I've been doing them for years. Anyway, hope you're doing well, Doc. Maybe the next time we meet, you might have an explanation." End quote. It seems to me that the possibility of controlling, tampering, and erasing memories are all viable when utilizing the Black Wall and its rogue AI. This of course includes the Neural Matrix. Now let's take a look back at 2079, or I guess look forward. When V visits Vic at his clinic, listen to what he has to say.
"Well, your core looks fine. Good even. Let's take a look at your motor cortex."
Can't say I like that,
First time I've seen anything like this. Your cortex seems to have turned deaf to implant signals. Maybe reinstall the Neuroport firmware. No, that'd... Maybe switch to binary signaling. That's a risk of shock. Life-threatening kind.
Said you can do something, Vic.
I was wrong. I'm sorry.
The explanation seems to be entirely different from what Reed has proposed. While normally I chalk this up to layman's terms, Reed isn't some idiot. He'd be perfectly capable of understanding and relaying this type of information. While Reed makes it out to be neuron damage, that they had disabled his combat implants, Vic describes it as his motor cortex being deaf to implant signals. It's not just implants being disabled, it's any possible function being muted, something no one else would have the technology to fix. It's all of these little details that lead me to believe that the NUSA is definitely lying to V on just what is going on. The Neural Matrix was clearly used beyond its initial purpose to simply cure V. Though the specifics we may never actually know, which is what leads us to speculation like this, V's story is likely to be left in the air following 2077, more of a Morgan Blackhand type legend we hear in passing. I also want to touch upon just how valuable the relic technology is to a corp like Militech. Experimenting on V during this time, switching around his consciousness, attempting to replicate his situation, etc., would all help in their research to control the rogue AI beyond the Black Wall. While none of this is confirmed to be tied together, this information is extremely interesting. In the Cyberpunk 2077 No Coincidences novel, there is a character that is revealed to be a hybrid of an AI and human, a test subject that is meant to help bridge Militech's connection to the Black Wall. In theory, an AI that is indistinguishable from a human that would be able to help control the rogue AI in a way no other can. This character essentially had their memories erased and was turned into a sleeper agent to be tested by Militech, the test being to assassinate a high-value Arasaka target. The time in which this takes place is unclear, but is set sometime in 2077. So the big question is obviously, is it before, during, or after V's story? Well, it seems that this timeline doesn't entirely matter in this scenario. This character wasn't the first or last in this program, so after this information, I believe V was looped into this AI hybrid program because of their entanglement with the Relic, becoming one of the best possible subjects Militech could get their hands on. And that, chooms, is everything I have to say about the predicament V is found in during the tower ending. After all this information, do you believe that the NUSA is lying to V, and that not only were his combat implants prematurely disabled, but that he was tampered with during his 2-year coma? I'd love to hear all your thoughts down below. If you managed to learn something new and enjoyed, please leave a like and think about subscribing to my channel for all your cyberpunk needs. If you'd like to take the extra steps to support the channel, all appropriate links will be down below. Again, thanks to Raid for sponsoring this video. All of their relevant information is down below and on screen for you to check out. And then, of course, my final big thanks to all the channel members up on screen. I appreciate all of you, chooms, for the support, as it helps me get through some pretty tough times. I'm extremely thankful for the opportunity to create content I love, and it means a lot to me. So as always, make sure to have a great week, and I will see you later, chooms.
Good night, Valerie. Today was a good day.